All right, welcome to the Diary of a Former Fat Kid. I'm your host and former fat kid, Brian Grizz Butler. Today, I have the privilege of talking with Dr. Joyce, Dr. Joyce Grant,
You got
our
this,
doula.
Brian.
Yep. She is the founder of the Nutrition Counseling Academy, a registered dietitian and nutritionist, assistant professor, dedicated mentor, wife, mother, and lover of soccer, aka football, for the rest of the world. Welcome, Joyce. How are you today?
I'm great, and you got that bio quite nicely. Thank you. So we're doing well. I cannot complain. It's a nice summer day, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So, diving right in, of course, we'll talk more broadly about story and things like that, but diving right in. So, you are a specialist in nutrition counseling. What was your relationship with food like in childhood?
Oh, going into the important stuff already. Gosh, well, I think my story can be a story that many dietitians relate to
Mm,
because I think that most people that go into nutrition and dietetics have their own nutrition story that led them to that. I grew up right in the middle of diet culture, to be honest. Even though I was growing up in Latino culture in Central America, it was so
mm.
prevalent everywhere. You know,
Wow. Okay.
we were put on diet since we were, early teens, 12 or 13 years old. It was just very common. So
Mm,
diet talk in Latino culture is very prominent.
okay. Wow. Which country specifically?
I grew up in Honduras.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, wouldn't have guessed that diet culture was so prevalent there as well. What are some of the brands and commercials that you remember?
Um, well, it's not as prevalent as it is here when it comes to marketing, but
Yeah. Okay.
what I can tell you about Latino culture, and I think this goes across countries, is that it's going to depend as well on someone's social economic stage, right, or where they're at.
Yep.
So you can see a lot of the population who are just, trying to make a living, trying to survive, eat the cultural foods that they're able to. And then once you start climbing up that ladder into, middle class, then you start to see a lot more concern about body shape and size and food
Mm,
choices because you have wider accessibility and ability to make more choices.
mm.
And then that's where I can say that the issues around diet culture are most prevalent.
Okay.
So, but to answer your question about commercials, I don't think I can remember having many food commercials um in Spanish TV, like in the TV I would watch in the local channels. However, I got access to all the American channels growing up. So that's where I would watch all of the food commercials. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, we didn't have fast food in Honduras. Okay, I might be dating myself, but one of the first restaurants that opened up fast food chains was either Burger King or Pizza Hut, and I was already around 7 or 8 years old. So I
Okay.
remember that being able to eat in those restaurants was like a luxury.
Mm.
So, and a big part of those that they also had a playground, so kids would go there and eat and
Yeah.
play.
Yep.
So it was associated with fun, but also not something you could do pretty often. So it wasn't until I moved here that I started to the US that I started to see how many fast food chains were seen differently from a different perspective, a different light. It was a different type of feeling that you got from these chains. And you would see these commercials on the TV when you were at the gym. You were at the gym and you were watching the TV commercials. So the marketing here is a lot more, I guess, people are getting more exposure to that type of marketing here in the US.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. You mentioned when you were high school and things like that, common in the culture to be put on diets. So was that coming from parents, or is that something that you or some of your peers were initiating, saying, "Hey, we want to get on this diet to lose weight," or something like that? Or
It was definitely not coming from me, I'll tell you that. I did
okay,
not want to be on a diet.
gotcha.
But I remember I was taken to a nutritionist when I was 12 years old.
Hmm.
And this is walking back memory lane. I hadn't thought about this in years. And I was taken to a nutritionist who was actually an American nutritionist living in Honduras.
Mm.
And I can't remember much about it besides the fact that I knew that she wasn't from Honduras.
Yep.
But they probably gave me a meal plan that I never followed. Can tell you that much. And I also remember my mom being on Slim Fast shakes and
Oh,
always
yeah.
looking for ways to, get in better shape. So I could see her cycle of restriction and dieting, and that was pretty normal. I would hear all my aunts, my grandmother, like most of the women in my family, the grown-ups, talk about diet and shape and size, and all of these concerns were pretty much weighing heavily on the conversations and on their minds, obviously.
Mm. Wow. Okay. So when you got old enough, the conversation that they were having with amongst themselves and the view that they had of themselves, they started to project that onto you and others as well, and say, okay, I think you need to see a nutritionist, and this might be good for you.
Yeah, I
That type
don't
of thing.
recall my doctor and my pediatrician ever bringing this up, to
Okay.
be honest, at least not in front of me.
Gotcha. Okay. So this was something that I was like, how did it come up? Did your mom just say, hey, we're going to go see a nutritionist one day, or?
Yeah, well, they were subtle. Well, growing up, I was, normal size shape up until I
Hmm.
was like
Yeah.
6 or 7. And then I started to get a little bit heavier for my size, for my
Mm.
height. So I think my
Okay.
parents were concerned to a certain extent, and they took me to a nutritionist. So there were always comments from family members saying, "Oh, look at your cousin," or "Look at,
Hmm.
this other person who's your same age and look at them," and like making comments about their body shape or size. I mean, I try to not make it, affect me, but it's inevitable. Whenever someone
Yeah.
says those things, you might not remember what exactly was it they said, or what they did, but you're gonna remember how you felt.
Yeah.
So, and that's the same premise that I use for my own business. Like, people will forget what you said, what you did, but you're never going to forget how you made them feel.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I can totally identify with some of that too, because looking at back at pictures, young, and then probably like 7, 8. I was tall for my age for sure, uh, but relatively normal in size. And then I started to get wider and wider, you know. And yeah, you kind of hit that high school point, junior high, high school. Things are just seemed kind of out of whack, at least for me.
Mm,
Some of it we could tell it was genetic, but then there were other aspects of it that were just lifestyle and, contributed from like a chronic injury that I had and,
mm.
more sedentary lifestyle and things like that. So yeah, totally identify. We didn't, Slim Fast never came up, things like that. But yeah, the conversations definitely have been common, being the biggest of your friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good. It makes you feel singled out, like too much attention is being put on you.
Hmm.
So in my case, I remember being 5 and like weighing 50, being 6 and weighing 60 pounds, and being 7 and weighing 70 pounds.
Hmm.
I wouldn't weigh myself often, but like once a year. But, I was noticing that there was this trend. So by the time I was 9, I was weighing 90. Most kids were probably weighing 60 or 70. So there
Hmm.
was this difference. But for me, there was this point where I really stretched out when I hit puberty at
Yeah.
13. And, I could tell like clothes fit me differently.
Yeah.
So it was a good feeling, but part of me was still had that inner identity of, I am a fat child.
Hmm.
So I remember I did a lot of sports. I
Hmm.
was a varsity soccer player, football, in Spanish. I also played varsity volleyball, varsity basketball. I was in all the sports.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember having some of my peers, like, my girlfriends comment, like, wow, your legs are so strong. But in my mind, I was like, but, my body doesn't fit the ideal of like this athletic or like, lean body.
Yeah.
But yet
Yeah.
I was still one of the starting players for all the
Yeah.
games. So I knew something was going well. Um,
Yeah.
and then I played soccer at the professional level after I finished high school. It was
Wow.
short lived. But I remember I scored a goal on the first game, so they kept on putting me in, which I was really happy about. And then I came to college, and physical activity wasn't really a big part of it. I was walking everywhere, but I was no
Yeah.
longer a part of a team sport.
Yep.
And even though I was able to maintain weight. It went up and then it came down, went up. I wouldn't say I had healthy habits instilled in me
Yeah.
necessarily. So I started studying nutrition and started paying more attention to what I
Hmm.
was eating. And I don't think it was ever necessarily an eating disorder, but there were
Hmm.
some things that we're trying to eat so perfectly because those are the guidelines that it
Yeah.
started to, become a little bit annoying to my family. Just put it that way.
Gotcha. Okay. So when you entered university, did you enter with the mindset of I'm going to study nutrition, or was that something that you pivoted to?
It never crossed my mind until I was a senior in high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was really into sciences. I thought I was going to go either chemical engineering or computer science
Mm.
because I like the sciences, but I also really like to cook. So the thought of studying culinary arts also ran through my mind. And I was in Honduras at this time, so I was ordering brochures to be sent
Hmm.
via mail, snail mail all the way to Central America.
Uh-huh.
And I decided it was either going to be something related to food or science. And then my sister-in-law mentioned this to me at the time, and I didn't know it was a thing. I mean, I had met that nutritionist in the past, but it didn't really seem like something I was really interested in. But I
Mm.
really wanted to do medicine had I stayed in Honduras. And she said, "Well, you know what? There are some people that can combine medicine and science with nutrition." And that's the dietitian career. And she had a good friend of hers from Honduras who had studied that in the US and
Mm.
had been living in the US as a dietitian. And I said, wow, that actually sounds really interesting because I get to combine my passion for food and science. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So it wasn't until then, when I was already almost done with high school, I then took a sabbatical semester
Yeah.
just to think about what I wanted to do, that I started looking at universities specifically for nutrition. And once I got in, I knew I wanted to go all the way. I wanted to, become a doctor of nutrition.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you entered in and was like, all right, I'm setting up for the multiple year journey to get all the way to the doctorate. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. You said your sister-in-law mentioned it to you. Is this sister married to a sibling, or were you married at that time already?
Oh, she was married. She is married to my older
Yeah.
brother,
Older
and
brother.
she's the one
Okay.
who introduced the idea of nutrition.
Gotcha.
And I would see her eat. She would eat like big plates, very, nicely
Mhm.
balanced, but she would eat a lot and she was always very slim. I'm like, what's the secret? What type of metabolism does she have that most people don't? It was just an interesting um,
Gotcha.
observation. But, anyways.
Hmm. That's it. That's interesting. I literally just posted, this is on Facebook, um, watched a conversation with some personal trainers and nutritionists recently, and they were talking about the challenges that a number of their clients, and this tends to be women who undereat, but how a number of their clients, the effect undereating would have on their performance, their ability to um, lose weight, their muscle, et cetera, and how oftentimes they would require people to actually eat more. Now you eat clean, but eat more, like you need more calories in order to get the results.
Yeah, and that's a scary thought for many
Yeah,
to
yeah,
have to eat a little bit more. On the other
yeah,
hand, you're thinking if you want to like feed your muscles, you want to make sure you're eating enough.
yep,
Otherwise, it's not really going to lead to anything good.
yeah.
A lot of
Can you
fatigue, your body's more likely to experience stress, get sick more often. So all these things. You might be thinking you're doing things really well, but you might not
yeah,
be reaching your health goals.
yeah. Can you speak a little more to why that is really scary for a lot of people?
Absolutely. So we have this idea of, well, it's a theory and a framework, right? Energy in and energy
Mhm.
out. So when we want to lose weight, the goal is to create a deficit. So we're
Mhm.
going to be eating less, fewer calories, and burning more calories.
Mhm.
Now, when we tend to take this to extremes, obviously we're going to start tapping into some of the tissues we want to maintain or grow, which is muscle. And that's what's going to ultimately dictate our metabolic rate. So when we're not nourishing our muscles, we're over extending our exercise or we're doing too much, we're really going to be stagnant. So then we have to somehow figure out how to get our bodies to a place where it feels safe to eat a little bit more. Because when we start to have lower muscle mass, our
Mm-hmm.
metabolism will also be decreased. So then
Mm-hmm.
how can we start to eat more so that we can make more muscle, so that we can increase our metabolic rate? And in that increase, there might be a time where your body's still adjusting. So you're going to gain weight most likely, and then potentially start to lose weight. So that
Mm-hmm.
gaining can be really scary for some people.
Yeah. And you think that's it's the prevalence of, going back to an early point of our conversation, diet culture and just the mindset that we have related to food and aesthetic and like ideal weight and things like that kind of really play a role in how we might receive that information.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Most people who are working with a dietitian, most people that come through my doors, they tell me they want to lose weight. And
Mm.
then it's my job to help them realize that there's more to health beyond weight. I
Mm-hmm.
practice from a weight inclusive approach, but I also practice from a client's autonomy above all. So
Mm-hmm.
we work towards their goals, why it matters, and what we can get, what we can do to get them closer to their goals. So
Yeah.
it's my goal, if they're holding on to weight as the main outcome, to help them also hold on to, reducing stress, improve sleep, more energy levels, all these other different things, other non-scale victories that we can work towards.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them we make these changes, and as we start to eat more intuitively, one of three things can happen. You can gain weight, your weight might not change, or you can lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
So then we start to start paying more attention to what our body's telling us. And that
Mm-hmm.
for some can be a little bit scary, especially if they're holding on to not wanting their weight to change, or not wanting their weight to, go up. They want it to go down.
Yeah. I think one of the things that was my mindset for years, and it wasn't until recently that I began to better understand and appreciate the difference between weight loss and fat loss in my own journey, and then even in my wife's journey as well. The importance of not using the scale as the only metric that you track, but looking at, improved performance, improved, rest, improved mobility, mood, all these other things that are benefits of caring for your body, eating well, things like that, that are separate from whether or not the scale moves.
Totally. And all those things you just mentioned, Brian, I even take it a step further and I ask my clients, and how does that relate to what matters to you?
Yep.
When I ask them what matters to you, spending quality time with the family, being able to play with my kids, run after my grandkids, be able
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy and not feel tired all the time. So then how do those things relate to that? And how are the things you're currently doing now helping you or getting in the way of you being able to achieve that?
Yep.
So we take it the next step so that it really becomes meaningful to them, and it's going way beyond the number on the scale.
Yep. Connecting it to relationships, one of the strongest.
Totally.
Definitely. Um, with actually, let's back up a little bit. So we dove right into the deep end regarding nutrition and what you do. But tell us a bit more about who you are. So you're married, you're a mom. Like, how long have you been married?
Yeah, sure. So I've been married for the past 10 years. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, actually. We got
Congratulations.
married in Honduras in 2015. I am from Honduras, so Latina. I'm a mom to three little ones, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So
Right.
my hands are full. My heart is fuller. So it was interesting because my husband's from Spain. So we had
Yeah.
about 250 guests, and 248 were my guests, and he had 2 guests.
I mean, you did do it in Honduras, so
Yeah, we're hoping to
okay,
eventually do like a renewing of our vows in Spain so that we can also celebrate with his side of the family.
awesome. Okay, nice. So do you come from a? I mean, it sounds like a big family, but like a big immediate family, or is it like extended and
It's
friends?
extended, but I'm
Okay,
also of Middle Eastern descent, hence the last name
Haraj.
Faraj. Yeah. So in my culture, also in Latino cultures, like everybody's a cousin.
Yep.
You have a lot of aunts and uncles. all of your grandparents, siblings are your great aunts, your great uncles, and their kids are your aunts and
Mhm.
uncles. Their kids are cousins. We don't make a distinction between like, first degree, second degree, they're all cousins.
Got it. Okay.
So you can imagine when I told my husband who was flying with his parents, he was coming to Honduras, we were going to have a family dinner. He thought it was going to be just me and my brothers. I have two older brothers and my parents. And it was, like 50, 75 people because it was all my immediate aunts and uncles and their kids. And that was for me, like, my closer family. I didn't even invite
Right.
my great aunts and their kids. That would have been a lot.
Right.
Those were the people who went to the wedding.
Okay. Gotcha. That's awesome. Okay. Okay. So, nationally Honduran, and then ethnically Honduran, and you said Middle Eastern. What
Yeah,
brought you?
my great grandparents migrated from Palestine to Honduras.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Um, what? Yes. What has it been like? Obviously, both speak Spanish, but one of the things that my wife and I have learned more recently, because our kids are at a multilingual school, and one of the directors is from Spain, but then a number of the staff are from, like Mexico, some Puerto Rican, Colombian, uh, let's see, Chile, and just the differences in, the changes in Spanish. And even some of them were saying, like, yeah, when the director from Spain came over, they were like, it's hard to understand. Like,
Yeah.
even though we're all speaking Spanish, I guess it's kind of like us and some of the accents from the UK. You're like, I don't
Exactly.
know what you just said.
Exactly. So before I met my husband, I started to meet other grad students at UMass
Okay.
Amherst when I went to school. And I started to meet other Spaniard students from Spain, from his region of Spain. So I started to get more
Okay.
familiar with their lingo, their way of speaking, their
Nice.
vocabulary, their expressions. Um, so that when I met him, I understood what he was saying.
Nice. Awesome.
Although he had to learn my Spanish too.
Yeah. Right. Yep. The culture different. That we say this, we don't say that. If you say that here, it
Oh
means this.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. There are several of those. We don't want to make
Hmm.
any mistakes with some words that would mean, really hard, like really bad things in his culture or vice versa.
Yep. Got it. Okay. Um, so you all, how did you all meet? Was it at university?
Yep. He was
Okay.
there on exchange for a year, doing his master's, and I
Yeah.
was doing my PhD. So I was starting my PhD when he was starting his master's.
Okay.
Different
Awesome.
areas, but yeah, we had friends in common. So we met the first day that he arrived in the country. And 2 weeks
Oh
later,
wow.
we were dating.
All right. Okay. All right. So who initiated that?
Well, it's funny. I kept on telling him, no, you're just here for a year. Maybe you want to go over, like, go and meet other girls, get to know the culture, meet other people.
Trying to get him out. Yeah.
And he said that reverse psychology really worked on him. But it was just like an immediate click in the sense that I felt very comfortable around him. We're just laughing all the time. It just felt very natural. So it was,
Awesome.
I like to say it was like a match made in heaven.
Cool. Nice. Nice. Yeah. One of the things that is of interest to me too is like relationships, and especially when they're like marriages that are doing well and people who are staying together, families that are strong, and always something I want to highlight and celebrate. Just talk to people.
Yeah, it's important to have role models too, right?
Hmm.
And
Yep.
to have open communication
Hmm.
and role model that communication too. Because we know
Yep.
that most issues come about when there's no communication, when my
Yep.
expectations are not being voiced or vice versa, and then the other person
Mhm.
can get frustrated. So open communication, I think, is at the basis of a lot of good relationships.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, so how has it been navigating? Before we jumped on the call, you were still working at university, and you did that for a while, right? You were a professor after you got your
Yes.
doctorate. Okay.
So after I got my doctorate, I was hired to create and run a nutrition program at a substance use rehab facility.
Okay.
So that was my first official full-time job as a dietitian.
That's heavy.
Yeah. So I did my PhD in nutrition and mental health. So there were a lot
Hmm.
of overlaps, but I still needed some guidance, mentoring, doing a lot of reading to make sure that I felt confident in the work that I was doing with the population I was working with.
Yeah.
So I created this really great program. I started seeing clients and I realized that I needed better skills when it came to counseling, communication, coaching. I started doing more trainings. And the silver lining around all of this is that I was working with therapists, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists. So I would attend their trainings and I would see how they would speak about behavior change. So that got me more invested in learning more about the psychology of change and
Mm.
how to communicate all of this. So then fast forward a few years later, I found an opening at a university. And when you've been in school for so long, Brian, when you get your PhD, for the most part, you get trained with the mindset that you want to become a professor. That's like the end goal.
Yeah.
So I found an opening and in the New England region. And I said, okay, I'm going to apply to that. And I ended up getting it.
Mm.
So for me, that was my dream job, to be honest. I thought I was going to be there for life. So then my husband started looking for jobs and he found a job at this school where we now live. His school gives us food and housing. It's a really nice
Yeah.
place to work. But I still had like an hour and a half commute each way. So even though I had my tenure
Yeah.
track assistant professor position, it was really weighing down on me. So I had to do that commute. So with one kid, it was doable, hard but doable. When baby number 2 came around, it was leading to burnout. Then when I
Yeah.
realized baby number 3 was coming, I said something has to change.
Mm.
And we had this conversation with my husband, and we decided that if anyone was going to be changing jobs for the sake of our family and for our health, it was going to likely be me. And I
Mm.
initiated that conversation. So no regrets. I'm still teaching at different universities as an adjunct.
Mhm.
However, I was able to take some time to think about what I enjoyed about teaching, what were the topics I was passionate about, who I
Yeah.
wanted to help, and that's where the Nutrition Counseling Academy was born. Out of the, necessity of fellow dietitians who wanted to improve their skills when it came to
Mhm.
coaching their clients. And I've been growing it ever since. That's my other baby. So I'm doing that, but I also miss the whole patient interaction. So I started my private practice. I take insurance, and I see patients as well, virtually and in person.
Okay. That's awesome. Um, since this is it's a tough conversation for a lot of people to have. It's understandably very like emotionally fraught. But how did you reach the decision to one, broach the topic with your husband, but then two, be okay with stepping back from your career that you worked so hard for and prioritizing, you all's children and like and the family in that way? For some, it would seem like an impossible choice or
Yeah. So I realized that before having kids, my main priority was my profession.
yeah.
And that I never even thought about being a mother. It just didn't occur to me. I'm like, that's like really far ahead. It's not something I'm
Okay.
thinking about yet. So, and he knew I was very like driven, career driven.
Hmm.
And when I started to realize that it was burning me out, and I can tell you exactly when that happened.
Okay.
I was putting my back then a 9-month old or 8-month old to bed. So we
Hmm.
were in a dark room. It was like 7 or 8 p.m. It was in the middle of winter.
Hmm.
And I was, rocking her and I was so tired. Like physically, emotionally, mentally, I was drained.
Yeah.
And I still had to put her to sleep and then continue working. And I was nursing, so I was pumping as well
Yeah.
and thinking about all the things that I had to do. And then I just had this thought. I would call this divine intervention. I don't think it came
Hmm.
from me. And I had this thought that occurred to me, and I thought, if I had 5 years left to live, do I want the next 5 years to look like this? not being able to spend enough time with the kids, being tired, being stressed, being fatigued, burning out. And I said, I'm killing myself with what I'm doing, and I'm not really enjoying my kids. They're only going to be kids once, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that was a message from God, to be honest. That thought coming into my mind, and I started panicking. And I
Mm.
remember I put my daughter to sleep, and I texted my husband. I said, we need to talk. And
You might be like, what?
you can imagine what might have gone through his head when I said, we need to
Yeah.
talk.
It's like, oh no.
So he was doing dorm duty at that time. It's like, sure, like, come on down, we can talk. And I went over and I said, I just had an epiphany and we need to talk. There's something serious. And he told me later on that he thought I was going to ask him for a divorce. Like, I was so serious. He started laughing. I'm like, no, come on, silly. There's no need for that. But, I shared with him how I felt. And I said, something has to change. Otherwise, I can't keep on doing this. And he said, whatever you decide, I fully support you.
Mm.
So I knew that I had his backing and his blessing to be able to do whatever I felt was better, not just for me, but also for the family. So
Yeah.
in my mind, my identity was also being a professor, and letting go of that identity was really hard.
Yeah.
Something I had to work towards for a long time. I did not want to become another statistics of a mother leaving the workforce because they had to be at home. So it wasn't necessarily that, but I knew that I had a different calling. So I knew that I wanted to see what my options were. So we started planning it out. And I said, I'm going to take a family leave. And I was able to just reduce my full-time to part-time. So
Yeah.
they kept me on for the next year, and I was working half. So I was going there half the number of days. I was teaching half the number of classes. And I started growing the Nutrition Counseling Academy to see if this was doable.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward a year later, I launched my first program, and I realized that there was a need. There were people joining. This was something that was getting a lot of momentum. I was doing free webinars. I was having hundreds of dietitians sign up, and I said, okay, I'm onto something.
Yeah.
So then when baby number 3 came around, I'll be honest with you, I think this was like the sign that I needed. I talked to HR and I said, okay, I'm having another baby. I worked full-time last year, but this year I'm on this leave. So I'm working half-time. What do I need to figure out what the maternity leave is going to look like? And they said, oh, don't worry, we can talk about it, later. So June comes around. I'm like, hey, it's June. I'm having a baby in 2 weeks. Like, what's going to be the plan? Because I asked for an extension of the part-time status for a second year, which is totally allowed. I never heard back. But HR, we met with them and they said, well, because you've been working part-time this past year, you don't qualify for any paid maternity leave. You only qualify for unpaid leave. So we can save your job for you, but you have to come back, after 3 months. And I said, you know what? Thank you, but I don't think that's going to work. So I think for me, that was the sign that I needed to let me know that it was time. It was time to just, let go of that identity and let go of that particular job. And it was something that was happening then. Let me see if I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
If I find it, I'll share it with you. But it was a quote from my what do you call it? My 365 days of believing bigger. So it was a particular quote that I also saw on that day, and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is my sign to just close that door and continue with the door that I've opened. That's, I'm growing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to find that and share it with you, but it was a really good one.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Part of the reason I'm just curious about it too is like there's been other conversations that I've listened to recently that have, navigated these waters, but it's also something my wife and I are talking through as well, because we're moving more into homeschooling this year.
Okay.
And yeah, just talking through and praying through what is it like, what's going to be best for our family in this seat.
Yeah.
She's still part-time and I still work, obviously. And so, but some in the office, some at home. And she's even navigating, okay, I've always worked, you know, since 18, but is there a season where I don't work right now, or what is work going to look like in this new season of homeschooling?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as you mentioned before kids, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
then even for guys, if we allow it to take place, like our identity shifts and our priorities shift
Yeah.
when we start having kids. And there's things that we need to do for the kids,
Totally.
family, that you just don't really process or understand until the kid's there. And you're like, hey, like,
It
like,
doesn't hit home until it happens. Yeah.
no. So yeah, it's interesting. Good to hear how you all navigated it, and just the good, clear communication that was evident, and the safety
Yeah.
that was there as well. That you felt safe enough to go talk to him about it, and he felt secure enough to hear you well, seek
Mm-hmm.
to understand and support.
Yeah. I'm blessed to have that type of relationship, to be honest. And let me
Yeah.
share with you, I found
You
it.
found it? Okay, cool.
So it was May 28th, 2023, 2 weeks
Okay.
before my third child was born. And this was what was on my daily, I don't know what you call it, my daily calendar that day. And it said, Lord, give me a healed heart that lets go of what no longer belongs in my life. Make a graceful and courageous navigator. Make me a gracious and courageous navigator of change, such that my blessings and burdens all bring you glory. Amen. So I'm like, this, I can't
Yeah.
get like a clearer sign than this, all happening on
Yep.
that same day. I'm like, okay. It was
Yep.
so really hard. Like I was crying all day.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but I knew that this was gonna pass and it was gonna be for the best.
So it was tough, but he gave you the grace to navigate it well.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Um, so you have your business now. What does your time allocation look like now related to adjunct professor, your business and family life?
Yeah. So it is probably me overloading myself.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I'm currently teaching one class. I was teaching one class in the spring, and
Mhm.
I'm teaching one class now at the graduate level. So I
Okay.
do that. The class right now is virtually. The one in the spring was in person. Then on 2 days a week, I see clients. And then on the other 1 or 2 days, I run the Nutrition Counseling Academy.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a little bit of each thing. Now, my
Mhm.
goal is to start to say no to more things so
Mhm.
that I
Okay.
can dedicate more time and effort into growing the Nutrition Counseling Academy. My goal is to
Yeah.
do private practice maybe 1.5 days, and then the other three and a half days to be able to do the Nutrition Counseling Academy. So I think teaching for the foreseeable future after I finish this class is not going to be in the equation, to be honest.
Wow. Okay. All right. And when you say you're seeing patients days a week, what is that? What does that look like for those who might not be familiar?
Yeah, so I see clients either in person or virtually. I rent an
Mhm.
office on Wednesdays from a local clinic.
Okay.
So I usually see around 5 clients on my clinic days. And
Hmm.
then I have Mondays when I see 1 or 2 clients. So my initials are roughly 75 to 90 minutes, and we dive
Okay.
into all the things, but we do it very conversationally. So it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like I'm shooting questions at someone. So this is where we
Okay.
have a patient-centered type of conversation, figure out what they're doing, where they
Hmm.
want to go, short-term, long-term goals, what matters to
Yep.
them. And I talk a lot about the behavior change journey, how we're focusing on making small changes, baby steps. So I let them guide. They are the driver. So
Yeah.
I'm the partner. I guide, but they're going to be the one deciding where to go, how often to go, at what pace,
Mhm.
and what
Yeah.
feels doable for them. So then
Okay.
we take it one step at a time. And that's what those days look like. I take insurance and then I have to do all the billing, and the things that come along with it.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, what are people normally coming to you to work on?
So right now I have a list. Oops. I have a list of things that I feel confident I can help clients with. I
Hmm.
help them reach better health through a weight inclusive lens. Although many of them might be coming to me because they want weight loss, and that's fine. We talk about all the
Okay.
different things. I also help clients who are taking GLP-1 medications. I also
Okay.
help clients who might have PCOS or prediabetes.
Hmm.
Um, those are the key ones. I'm seeing a lot of clients also who are coming with thyroid conditions.
Mm. Okay.
Anyone else coming with like type 1 diabetes or renal disease, eating disorders, I send them out. I refer them out to dietitians who might be a better fit for them. So I do have a quick discovery call with people to
Yep.
see A, are we a good fit? And
Yeah.
B, am I in network with their insurance? And if not, that would be cash pay. What do they want?
Yep. Okay. Interesting. So with the obviously since GLP-1s are on the rise and becoming more prevalent and more versions are coming out, um, how I guess your average person may hear if someone's on GLP-1, like why do they need to go to nutrition counselor or a dietitian, et cetera. So can you talk more about the kind of some of what you might help people with, and why people are coming to you if they're already on a GLP-1?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a big misconception that because they're on a medication, the medication works, that they don't need to work on their lifestyle or their habits. On the contrary, when the medication is working, that might be the best opportunity for them to start building healthier habits so
Yeah.
that we can minimize muscle loss, so that we can minimize bone loss, so that we can minimize hair loss, so that we can make sure they're not becoming deficient in different vitamins or minerals,
Yeah.
so that they can start to work on their relationship with food and instill healthy habits that can help them work on strength
Hmm.
training, and all these different things that taking that medication would allow them the opportunity to do. Because yes, it does reduce the food noise, so now they can start to work on nourishing their body in a way that feels better. They're no longer thinking about cravings as much or thinking about sweets as much, and the portions tend to be different. But we're also working on minimizing GI side effects, so constipation, reflux, and all the things that might come along with a medication that makes everything move more slowly through your digestive tract.
Hmm. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Um, in looking through some of your materials, I noticed that you had a course that you were working on, that was addressing, well, I guess, helping practitioners approach their patients with um, kind of cultural humility.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can you talk more about what that is, and why it's important and to you, and should be important to, I guess, practitioners more broadly?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about cultural humility, it means that we're going to be taking into account our patients' expertise, their preferences, their way of living, what matters to them.
Hmm.
And we are going to take a back seat in the sense. So we're going to let them be the experts. We're going to ask them how they like to do things, where their preferences are, take into account what they're like historically, what has been something that's been influencing their culture as well.
Yeah.
So when I look at cultural humility and I look at motivational interviewing as being a strength-based, empowering, person-centered approach,
Hmm.
MI is looking at a communication style that is looking through a cultural lens, basically, because they're
Yeah.
both being person-centered or patient-centered. We're focusing on what they want, and the most important part is that we're elevating our clients to the expert that they are. Only they
Yeah.
know what's going to work for them. So when I say I'm working on a culturally humble approach, it
Hmm.
means that I'm working with the client, making sure that they are the ones telling me what they want to do, how they want to get there, and I'm guiding. So really is a lot of MI, motivational interviewing.
Hmm.
And I can separate them both because to me, they're one and the same. It's just they have
Yeah.
different names for it.
Okay. Gotcha. Does that also take, I guess, show up in like how you might approach? So, for example, there's a dietitian that I spoke with a little while ago in the UK, and he mentioned something similar about like when he's working with um, patients. He's in an area that has a lot of immigrants in the UK, and one of the things that's been really important for him, and he works with diabetes patients, is taking the time to understand their culture, cultural foods, um, and things like that, and crafting a plan that incorporates all those things, as opposed to saying, hey, you may be from this country, but I want you to start eating like these UK foods or I want you to eat a Mediterranean diet, although you're from, Central Africa. Like,
Absolutely. I'd say it's also taking it to the next level. And even though
Okay.
someone might be from a particular culture, it doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily eat those cultural foods. So
Right.
then
For
that's where we
sure.
say we focus on the individual.
Yep.
So, I might be from Honduras. It doesn't mean that I eat those foods all the time,
Hmm.
but I've adjusted, right? So it's focusing on where the patient or the person is now, taking into account their considerations, what they enjoy, what matters to them. Um, and obviously it's asking them questions, so
Yeah.
letting them take an active role in coming up with the plan.
Hmm.
And when it comes to motivational interviewing through a cultural lens, there's also the idea of focusing more on affirmations, because many people from cultures that might not be the predominant culture in the country
Hmm.
might have a tumultuous relationship with the medical system
Yep.
or the healthcare system. So it's a lot about making them feel safe, making them feel seen, and knowing that
Yeah.
their voice matters. So I can give you an example of the Latino culture. When you
Hmm.
go to a doctor's office, you would never think of like advocating for yourself. But it's like what the doctor says, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
So with MI, it's like, no, we're raising your voice to be a part of the conversation so that you can advocate for yourself. We don't want
Yeah.
your needs to be overseen or for you to be gaslit by your providers,
Yeah.
and to not allow that because of our traditional culture or the way we approach the healthcare system.
Okay.
So it's about creating affirmations, elevating their voice, and making them feel
Mhm.
more empowered. And we do that by also getting to what matters to them most.
Mhm. And how do you see this improve patient outcomes?
Absolutely. When someone's more actively engaged in session, guess what? They're more likely to be engaged in the plan when they leave session.
Mhm.
Because whatever way you dice it, you're only with them for, if you're lucky, an hour,
Right.
for like every couple of weeks or a month.
Hmm.
So it's naive of us to think that we can change anyone, but like, what can we do to be able to increase their odds of success when we're not there, when they're on their
Yep.
own? So we do this by keeping them as an active participant in our sessions.
Hmm. Would you say too that with that active participation comes a greater sense of ownership?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we emphasize their autonomy through MI. It's like, this is your journey. You take or
Yeah.
leave whatever you want to, and only you can decide what you want to work
Right.
on. Ultimately, this
Yeah.
is you. I can give you my advice with permission, but then you decide if you're going to take it or not. And that
Yep.
does give you some sense of ownership.
Hmm. Absolutely. Okay. um, for folks looking to like improve their health, or I guess even take a step back, like, well, I guess part of what you address is like the mental health of things. We talk a lot about the physical health, nutrition, and things like that, but the mental health plays such a pivotal role and is even more important than has to come first before the physical health. And so, how do you help people um, begin to take the first step in the mindset shift, or to use, I guess, like a Christian phrase, like the renewal of their mind, so that they can start to make healthier choices and kind of change those habits?
So I'm glad you brought up the mental aspect of it. I believe that change is 95% mental, if not more.
Yeah.
So working on someone's mentality, on how they talk to themselves, their self-compassion, who they want to become is a big aspect of the
Mhm.
conversations we have in coaching.
Yeah.
A big one that I tend to talk with my clients quite a bit is, who do they want to become? Both you, Brian, and I were both undergoing micro evolutions of ourselves. Who
Hmm.
you were today is not the same person you were a year or 2 years ago.
Yep.
So with that, I talk to my clients about who they want to become. So it
Hmm.
goes beyond the what do they want to do or the goals,
Yeah.
but who they want to become, and start by creating that vision of who they want to become. So they have a better idea of where they want to go and how to get
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
So then we start to talk about, how would this person respond or react to this particular scenario? And how
Hmm.
would this person, how are these actions lining up or getting in the way of you becoming this person? And how are your
Yeah.
behaviors or actions or thoughts lining up with their values as well, and what matters to them? So then a lot of this is creating the space for them to start to ask themselves these questions so that they can start to be more intentional with their actions, thoughts, and behaviors, and not let their automatic brain take over with the old habits.
Hmm. Absolutely. This obviously has application far beyond nutrition space as well. Have you seen, although your focus is on dietitians, have you seen interest from other professions as well?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I'll say yes because when I speak to other individuals from different professions, when I speak to nurses, personal trainers, and I tell them what I do, like, oh, wow, that sounds really useful. Like, I think that would benefit, us
Hmm.
as a profession. But I haven't,
Absolutely.
I haven't tapped into figuring out how to reach out or tap into different audiences, to be honest. I've just been
Gotcha.
focusing on dietitians, but absolutely being able to help individuals change their behaviors is going to go way beyond eating, but it's going to really tap into how people think, what people do, whether it's related to medical or not. It goes through different professions or across professions.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Um, what advice would you give like the everyday person if they were considering working with nutrition counselor? What are some things they should be looking for?
Yeah. So some of the things that they should be looking for, if you want to work with a dietitian, dietitians.
Hmm.
So dietitians are credentialed and licensed professionals who have gone through the training, and they would practice from an evidence-based perspective. Now, in addition to that, you could ask the dietitians what their approach is. How do they lead their sessions? How much
Hmm.
input can you have? Like, how do they determine what to work on? You don't want to go to someone that's going to give you a meal plan or like tell you all the things you need to do and then like off you go. But someone
Yeah.
that takes the time to really listen to you, get to know you, and make you feel empowered. Sorry about that.
No, no worries. No worries. Okay. Um, and for, I guess for professionals who are working in, service-based industries like this, how would you, I guess, let me ask this. What are some of the primary objections you've gotten from people when you approach them or they encounter your um, this methodology, your approach?
That you don't know what you don't know.
Okay.
So thinking that you're doing things well is one of the biggest, I guess, barriers to doing things better, because you don't know what you might be missing out on or the skills you could be gaining to make your sessions go from good to amazing,
Mm,
to really help your client retention, because you might be doing things a certain way. I've had some dietitians who will say, well, I've been in private practice for like 20 years. What can I learn?
mm,
So, and I've had others who said, I've been in in private practice for 25 years, and I'm still amazed at how much I learned from joining some of my programs. So then it's having an open mind and trying to search within yourself, like, where could you do things differently? Because it cannot be that all clients have an issue with nutrition or that all clients are not doing the things. Could it be that maybe there needs to be a shift within our approach? And to me, that's a very humbling but also empowering type of thing to realize. Because it's not that clients are quote unquote non-compliant or non-adherent. I don't like using those words at all.
Yeah.
Although they're commonly used, but it's more like, how can you shift your approach to make it more person-centered, to make it more strength-based and empowered, making your clients feel empowered so that they can do more of the things. So that's where I say effective coaching and counseling skills are going to make the difference. Anyone can go onto Google and look up nutrition information. Anyone can use ChatGPT and come up with a meal plan. I doubt how good it's going to be, but they can do it.
Yeah.
However, where dietitians and professionals come in is with our communication skills, our ability to connect, to form a relationship with our clients, to really help them feel supported and empowered. And that is not going to be replaced by anyone else. But you have to be good at your communication skills to be able to convey that.
Okay. Would you say that because I've heard it often as well, people just need to be told what to do because they're dumb, they don't listen, and they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. I've heard it a lot, but is it also something that's common during the educational process for a lot of dietitians?
I think most dietitians who have been trained, especially the ones who were trained a long time ago, and I mean, even now it happens in our training, is that we are taught to be the experts in nutrition. While it's true, we're leaving out the other part of the equation, that our clients are the experts of their own life, and we need to work together to figure out what's going to work for them. So with motivational interviewing, you have to come in with the attitude that we're both experts and we're working together. It's not me telling you what to do. It is also having the belief and the trust that your clients have inner wisdom within them. And together, we're going to figure out what that is to help them identify and use the resources that they already have. And I think that's where we missed the mark for many healthcare practitioners, where we're coming in with this idea that we are the experts and we got to tell them what to do. When in reality, we have to pair up. We have to elevate their expertise. We're not downgrading ours. We're elevating their expertise so that together we can figure out their way forward.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's really good. I've even, learned some just from your content as well in ways that I could approach relationships with clients differently, and kind of navigating. Obviously, with some clients, they're like, I'm hiring you to tell me what to do because I don't know what I don't know, but I also value my time. And so you have a solution, I trust you, etc. But then there are other clients who it very much is a collaborative process, and the best result is going to come from that. I even see application in my relationship with my wife and my kids too.
Totally.
So 100%.
This is what I'd say about counseling, coaching, communication skills. They're the gift that keeps on giving, because you can use these skills with so many different interpersonal conversations and relationships. The issue, though, is that many people don't see the value in them, because when it comes to marketing, you're not going to get a monetary value, but it's going to be a process. You're going to see the results in a more abstract way, I guess.
Okay. Well, I guess abstract to a degree, but then also, I guess you can put some measurable metrics attached to those, like the relationships, where you can see, like, okay, I'm implementing this stuff. Like, am I seeing an improvement in the rapport that I'm able to develop with patients and their receptivity and maybe adherence to the plans that we come up with together? And
right. So ideally, you could be able to look at the client outcomes. You can look at the subjective measures of how you
Right.
feel things are going.
Right.
You could look at client retention to see if that
Mhm.
increases. There's always going to be things that are outside of our control. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but but yeah, to me, it's a gift that keeps on giving. So no matter what scenario you're in, your coaching and counseling skills can apply to any type of relationship, or even when you're presenting, using those MI skills as well.
Yeah. Okay. Before we close, what 2 or 3 lessons have you learned in conceptualizing and launching your business that you think would be helpful to somebody who's a few steps behind you?
So 3 lessons that I've learned. Okay. I have learned that it's important to survey my audience to see what they actually want.
Yeah.
I have learned you don't wanna create something that no one's gonna buy. So
Yeah.
that says make
Yep.
sure you have an audience and that you're creating something that people want. That's also, like, within your expertise, obviously.
Right.
Um, I would also say that I've learned that language matters when
Mm.
it comes to marketing. When it comes to, in my case, I've been working on having a less clinical language to a more conversational language, so that we can really help our audience when they're reading our things to know, like, it's not just about this is what's included, but like what are they getting out of these programs,
Yep.
and then shifting that language to identify what might be some of the benefits for them, as opposed to this is what the program includes.
Yep.
And third, you can only control what you can control. So I can control the consistency with how often I post. I can control many different things, like what I can do, but I cannot control the outcome. So I need to become detached from the outcome.
Mm.
For example, if I have a launch coming up and not many people have joined, it can be very easy and very human of me to become sad because not, people aren't joining. However, I cannot control how many people join. What I can control is how I market it, how often I talk about it, how I talk about it, and basically focus on these things.